Brother and lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. We're going to be talking about MOISES CAICEDO and the deal and everything you need to know about him moving to Arsenal, or at least one part of London, which could include Chelsea as well. Now, what we know about MOISES CAICEDO is that Chelsea are making him their primary focus after missing out on Manuel Ugarte. Arsenal been in talks with MOISES CAICEDO's representatives since January, and that means that one of Chelsea and Arsenal will sign MOISES CAICEDO this summer. It's gonna be a very, very hefty, price, around 100 million, with a bidding war already on our hands. Chelsea willing to outbid Arsenal, but Arsenal coming in there with UEFA Champions League football as well. So I want your thoughts, I want your opinion in the comment box below. Would you be okay with the fact that Partey leaves and then CAICEDO comes in, or would it be even better for CAICEDO to come in and be that kind of understudy for Thomas Partey? Of course, it's always going to be very difficult if you sign a player for upwards of 78 million. They're always going to be a starter. It's very difficult to convince a player that there will be an understudy at 78 million. It's going to be difficult. So do you see MOISES CAICEDO as a player who starts ahead of Thomas Partey? Do you think we don't need CAICEDO because we have Thomas Partey at the moment? And if Partey stays, then definitely CAICEDO can go elsewhere. Let me know in the comment box below. Hit the like button. Let's get this video to 500 likes. Now, first and foremost, reports have been claiming today that Arsenal have agreed personal terms with MOISES CAICEDO. Now, this is kind of wide off the mark because the talks we had with MOISES CAICEDO and his representatives were actually in January. Of course, we did agree personal terms with the player, and I've seen a few outlets trying to bring this story back to life. It is not that we've agreed personal terms with MOISES CAICEDO this summer. We actually did agree terms with CAICEDO in January. And I tell you what, that was a time when CAICEDO was desperate. That was a time when he desperately wanted to join Arsenal, and there was no agreement between him and Brighton that he would leave. But right now, in this summer, he has an agreement with Brighton that they would sell him in the summer. That is if a club came in really interested in him and willing to pay the price tag that Brighton are asking about, which we'll actually talk about later in this video. So I think the terms of that deal do not count anymore. I think the terms have changed. Remember, in January, he signed a long-term contract, maybe not a very, very long-term contract, but he did renew his deal with Brighton. That allowed Brighton to extend his, release clause. That is number one. But then also, it allowed MOISES CAICEDO to sign for more money at Brighton. So if Arsenal were originally offering around 50,000 or 60,000, and now he's earning around 45 or 50 at Brighton, then that means the personal terms that were agreed do not count. So in my opinion here, I think Arsenal will have to redo the work. Of course, we've talked to CAICEDO before. That gives us an added advantage. We've talked to his representatives, his camp. We know what they like. We know what they're like, and we know the kind of communications that we're going to be dealing with when we're talking to the Ecuadorian side and his camp. So personal terms agreed in January, but I think we will have a few changes. We will have a few things that will have to change. Number two, which is very, very important here, just what has been saying today, that MOISES CAICEDO will choose between Arsenal over Chelsea if both clubs came in with the same amount of money. And this is very, very clear and very important. Arsenal have to match Chelsea's bid. If Chelsea go for 75 million, Arsenal will have to pay that. If Chelsea go for 80 million, Arsenal will have to pay that. Now, there is no question about this. MOISES CAICEDO prefers Arsenal over Chelsea. He looks at the club as a club that he's supported for almost all his life. And of course, these are not new scenarios. We've seen players like Thomas Partey sign for Arsenal from Atletico Madrid. Madrid were at a better level then, but then he signed for Arsenal, who were in the Europa League, by that time, all right? So in my opinion, I'm going to say that gives us an added advantage over Chelsea. The player wants to join us. The player wants to play for us. We do have champions in football, and that is also another point that I've actually noted down here, that according to Charles White, again, the player would love to play in the UEFA Champions League. Of course, in football, money talks. If Chelsea go with 100 million on the table and they can offer him a 6 million or maybe 7 million or 8 million contract per year, that changes the dynamics of the deal. But at the moment, without anything being closed, without anything being agreed, he wants Champions football. He would prefer to play for Arsenal if Arsenal can match Chelsea's bid and can also offer substantial wages for him. Now, until this point, I do not think we have a problem. I think Arsenal are totally in control of this deal. The problem, and this is where the problem arrives, is that Fabrizio Romano today has said that Chelsea are willing and are prepared to outbid Arsenal for MOISES CAICEDO. They will do whatever it takes to sign him. Mauricio Pochettino has actually highlighted him as not a potential, but as a top transfer target. That is with Manuel Ugarte. And now that they've lost Manuel Ugarte, they will die to sign MOISES CAICEDO. Now, when we say Chelsea outbidding you, Arsenal is the best example of that. We have so many scenarios where we were very close to signing a player, Juan Mata, Mikhailo Modric. We've had so many scenarios where we were this close, and then Chelsea came in with a lot of money, and they swooped away the player. So, in this regard, Brighton are looking at around 100 million. I think this is a little bit ridiculous, right? They will be able to settle for around 75, 80 million pounds, but still, that is a lot of money, right? So, if Chelsea are willing to pay 80 million and Arsenal are not willing to go above 70 million, I can guarantee this: he will sign for Chelsea. He will go to Chelsea because they don't have problems with wages. Of course, we know that they're one of the best paying clubs in England. Maybe the one thing that Chelsea will be looking at here and might be crucial for us is, can they offer more players long-term contracts on huge wages and still be in line and harmony with FFP. Now, of course, I understand Mason Mount will be out of the door. Kai Havertz will be out of the door. Players like Hakim Ziyech are going to be leaving. Players like, maybe Khalid Koulibaly, maybe Keba Arrizabalaga are going to be leaving. And all these players are earning a lot of money. But before they do that, that means that, they will be falling out of FFP rules. So it's going to be a battle of shipping players out and then buying players in. So if Chelsea can, somehow stay within the limits of FFP, they will outbid Arsenal. I'm very, very sure. Although Arsenal have the money, although Arsenal want to, do a midfield rebuild, I don't see ourselves spending more than 80 million on MOISES CAICEDO. But I would see Chelsea spending more than 90 on MOISES CAICEDO. Now, the fact that it's going to be a bidding war and why it is very, very good for Arsenal is Chelsea have to be cautious. They need a striker. They've been linked with Victor Osimhen. Of course, we know Aurelio De Laurentiis at Napoli is going to go 100 million or get out. No one is going to sign Victor Osimhen for less than 100 million. So they have to stay within the spending limits. I think they will need a centre back. They will need 2 or 3 midfielders, especially if they lose Mason Mount. They will need a central midfielder, and they will need 2 holding midfielders. That's a no-brainer. Kovacic is leaving as well. So they're looking at bringing in so many players, yet they've already spent almost £500 million in the last 1 year, or probably less than 1 year. And that is where I think the bidding war works for Arsenal. What Arsenal have to do is start slowly by, placing a 50 million bid, and then Chelsea will definitely outbid that by going to, 60, and then we can offer 70. Chelsea will offer 75. We can offer 80. And by that time, Chelsea will feel like they're going into the wrong direction. Like I said, they need over 5-6 signings. They have spent £500 million in the last half a year or so, and they now still need to spend another 500 million, which, in my opinion, just says Chelsea might not be able to go reckless in the window. I'm not saying they will not spend huge amounts of money. I'm saying they might not go reckless, just like they did with Joao Felix, with Mikhailo Modric, and all these other kinds of deals, okay? So there will be a bidding war on this deal. Just make sure that you're locked on to Cossy's Arsenal podcast, because I'll be giving you every detail about this deal. Right, so the other important aspect of this deal is that despite the fact that we will have a bidding war, Arsenal are not willing to overpay. Just like Chelsea walked away from the Manuel Ugarte deal because PSG were trying to make them overpay above market price, Arsenal will also not overpay for Moises Caicedo above market price. But this is a player that we offered 70 million for in January. That means that because it's now the summer and we're going to have a few sales, maybe we could be looking at Pepe out. We could be looking at maybe Rob Holding out as well, and Xhaka as well for 15 million euros. We could be looking at a scenario where Arsenal are willing to sacrifice that extra 10 million euros to sign Moises Caicedo for 80 million euros. But Arsenal will not overpay. That is a characteristic of Arsenal's spending culture in the last 2-3 years, and it's been very, very successful, and it's been very good. Of course, successful meaning that we've not won the Premier League, but we are still within the limits of FFP, right? And I agree here because just like Chelsea, Arsenal are also going to need to bring in a couple of players. We need a centre back, we need a right back, we need a central midfielder, we need a holding midfielder, and potentially one more player up top. Maybe a striker, maybe a left winger, or maybe a backup right winger. So you look at that, you look at those numbers of that number of signings that we're looking at. That could be maybe 5-6 signings. If you offer 80 million for Caicedo, you might end up spending 300-400 million. And I'm sure Arsenal will not be spending that. I think the highest amount of money we'll be spending this summer is around 250, maybe 300, maybe, just maybe 300 million. So that is there. Now, the asking price, like I said, Brighton will be looking at 100 million. And it's only sensible. He's their best player last season. He's the most improved player at Brighton. He's the player with the biggest impact on that team. And I think he's the hardest to replace when you ask at Brighton. Just look at all these other, all these other positions. McAllister leaving. They already have Julio Enciso in that position, in the number 10 position. Is absolutely gorgeous to watch, right? But they've also brought in Mahmoud Daoud, who I think is a very, very good signing. They've signed Milner, who is as versatile as, I don't know what is as versatile as, but he's very, very versatile. So Moises Caicedo is the only player they will struggle to replace. So it's only fair enough for them to go, if you can give us 100 million, we will give you Moises Caicedo, right? And I'm thinking here Brighton will be looking at someone who's a little bit more proven than Caicedo, because they have Europe. So I don't think they're going to go back to Uruguay, Ecuador, Paraguay, and then get some guy from rubbish and then polish him off. That will take maybe a year, maybe 2. You don't have that time when you're competing at the top level in Europe, in the Europa League. So 100 million, it's too much. As an Arsenal fan, it's very, very much. But for Moises Caicedo, 70, 80 is very good money. Like, it's very, very good value for money. And I would employ Arsenal to pay up as quickly as we can. Now, Thomas Partey could be leaving, and this could be a very major update to Moises Caicedo joining Arsenal. Now, what we are hearing and what I'm picking up, I'm actually not even quoting any official sources here, but what I'm picking up is that Thomas Partey could be leaving Arsenal. I don't understand the reason. I've not really got... I've had so many conspiracy theories as to where he's going and why he's leaving. But let's wait and see. Let's just keep a cool head, right? But this is the point. If Partey leaves, Caicedo then sees himself as a fit-in. He knows he's going to be playing for Arsenal in the UEFA Champions League and also in the Premier League every single minute, every single hour. And I think that would be kind of an incentive for him to go, all right, my place is already there. All I need to do is do the paperwork, and then I'll be an Arsenal player. But if Thomas Partey stays and Chelsea lose N'Golo Kante, because again, this is more of a probability, guys. If Chelsea lose Conte and we don't lose Partey, I think CAICEDO could look at it in this way and go, I can replace N'Golo Kante. I can replace, maybe Thomas Partey. So let's see. If Partey leaves, I think Arsenal will be geared towards paying more money for Brighton's Moises CAICEDO. But then I also think CAICEDO will look at that as an incentive. So I want your thoughts. I want your opinions. That is where we are with Moises CAICEDO. Chelsea pushing hard at the moment. They are not leading that race. Arsenal are leading that race because we've done a lot of groundwork since January. But that doesn't give us any edges. It just means that we've done more groundwork. As simple as that. Okay. So in terms of other defensive midfielders that we're looking at, Zubamendi, of course, at Real Sociedad. I love the guy, but he's one of the players we're looking at. His release clause is around 60 million euros. We are also looking at Edson Alvarez, the guy who could, for me, it could be the next big thing in central midfield. He's played at Ajax in that role. Very, very silently, but very, very well, okay? So if Dortmund don't get him, and Arsenal could get that deal done, I mean, it would be nice. But we're also looking at Romeo Lavia, who has been relegated with Southampton. There is a buyback clause for Manchester City in his contract. But if Manchester City don't trigger that, then it only means that Arsenal have a massive chance to sign Romeo Lavia. I'll see you right in the next one. I'll be doing a live stream very, very soon. Live streams very, very soon. But for now, let's keep it at that. I want to cover all the stories that we've not covered, react to them, and then we can get the summer started.